honest viewers, and I'm putting this forward for honest viewers, not biased or etc. I had put forth a video titled Preacher Doc's Video Expose, especially thus Einstein. Then in looking for it on the internet, I noticed one that glorified Einstein, 1.3 million viewers. I get maybe a dozen. And I said, well, I'll look at this. And it was really put together good. And the graphics was good and presentation. But they, compared to my age, where the young people were either just saying what they were taught or were hyping this hype they do of Einstein. And it says, well, you can answer. Well, I was going to write a text and it says, or you can put a video answer. I said, well, I'll try that. I never want to put a video on somebody else's video. I said, but I'll try it. And come to find out, it's then done as now through the YouTube. And when I went to look for it, it wasn't in there. They didn't include it, but it's still on the internet. And it turns out it's sort of like opposite, or now I say it's an addendum to the video I presented. So I call it Preacher Doc's expose video expose of especially thus Einstein, an addendum part 1, part 2, and I'm going to make this part 3. I do it spontaneous, unrehearsed, because I believe in saying what is the true facts. And that is, I would say that Einstein represented, a polite way of saying, plagiarized others' work until it came to E equals mc squared. I admired him. When we conferred, of course, I spoke to him real respectfully, suggested not to correct, but to modernize, which is, I thought, not only polite, but the proper way of putting forward. My capital X prime equals capital X minus VT over the square root of 1 minus V squared over capital C squared, where capital C is equal to or greater than the velocity of light. So no one can decree what is the ultimate velocity, especially with a particle that traverses, that is emitted and traverses space. Because you can, Compton proved momentum. He has rho, or now P equals mvr. You put R to unity and you have P equals mv. And as soon as you obtain momentum, you must have mv mass. And that's proven by that experiment where light was bent in the eclipse. What that proved is that light is affected by gravity, therefore it must have mass, even though then they still say it's zero mass. Do you understand? That is the truth. Now what I did, there's 2 little items, is that I do this spontaneous and I'm thinking of maybe trying to fast forward to get to what I really want to present, which is my 21st CTMP. And I have to try to get this done in, I would think, 8 minutes to make sure they don't, you say it went over 10 and then it's not presented. And that is, I went, and there was one man that was one of Einstein's, within his inner group that worked with him in Germany, and he was still alive. He was at the Royal Irish Academy. So I went there for at least that reason, plus the fact that the Irish say that mathematics is the main discipline, and like physics, yeah, it's important, but it's like secondary to the overall science discipline. All countries put physics and mathematics as sort of a supportive department within the science department. Usually main is the physicists and the mathematicians support them. But in Ireland, they have mathematics. The man in charge of the science department is a mathematician. So I said, this is a special interest to yours truly. So I went there and I found this man that worked with Einstein. And I said, well, I told him what I had achieved, therefore who I really am. And he said, well, obviously then you know what it is. That's the media. Einstein this, Einstein that. He says, that's the way it's done. I says, now what about, he had 1905 representations, is the polite way of putting, using somebody else's work. 1915 is the general theory of relativity, just as sort of a refining of the special theory. And as I said about proving, the general theory was proven because light bent in the eclipse. All it proved is that light must have mass, like I insist, and that it does, Compton proved it has momentum, and therefore to have momentum you must have mass. So even though they say it's zero mass, that's the way they write it as far as the table they have of mass. You see, I have the finite particle theory, which I discussed that with Einstein, towards the infinitesimal particle. And when you get towards the infinitesimal particle, now maybe you are working with a particle that you can use towards the fundamental building block of the universe in a unified field theory. Now, I said, he put forward, because when we completed our discussion, we had agreed that they were trying to force us not to work together, because I was the ideas man at the highest level in several disciplines, and he was, they would say, the god of science. So I thought it would be great if the ideas man would get together with the expert use of today's mathematical physics, and together we could maybe put forward a representative expression, formula, towards a unified field theory. And we agreed on that, but then suddenly he died the night before we were supposed to actually start the work with a heart attack. I said, but in his attempt at a unified field theory, you know, it was incorrect. He says, he was so stubborn. I'm quoting this man. He said, we tried to get him to retract it. It took us 1 year till finally he said, oh yeah, he would retract what he put forward as a unified field theory. That was like in 1927. So at 1915, he put forward a sort of a little refinement of what he represented of others' work in 1905. So after 1915, really, Einstein put forward no new concepts that were valid. Do you understand that? No real concepts of his own thinking. The only thing he would do is work and maybe put his idea of his symbol, of his alphanumeric representation of what occurred in a field of force. Mathematics is an abstract discipline. He said you had to think irrationally to get the best answer. And I said, no, and I've proven you have to think rationally to get the best rational answer that will be valid today and in the future. And that's where I'm at. Einstein, really, you have to understand, is the greatest plagiarist. The real truth is what I say. And that is life in case of electromagnetic radiation. I did the original work. I did the original work of the laser coherent, futuristic, multi-purpose coherent beam. You better believe that. And to the believers, I say thank you.